We're good.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be visiting the Guantanamo Bay Museum of Art and History, Unionville 17. Tour Reflections number 1. After 2 connecting flights and nearly 18 hours in transit, the plane is finally dipping toward the airport. I can see the patchwork of green curves of land and red roofs reforming through the window. Below is Cuba, or at least the American section of it. I never thought I could see this place firsthand, or that it would be demilitarized in my lifetime. The first exhibit of the museum is a painting titled Hand Holding Red Flowers by Muhammad Ansi. It depicts a pale hand reaching up, gently pinching the stem of 2 red flowers, which could be freesias or trumpet vine flowers. On the wall beside it is an untitled painting by Mansour Adiafi. It depicts several colorful hearts. 2 of the hearts are seemingly broken and bandaged together. The tour is a glimpse of the possibilities of Guantanamo Bay, but currently state-sanctioned images of Guantanamo Bay operate to legitimate and shape the war on terror by forming sites of meaning through an interplay of visual and legal practice on visibility. These visual practices have become the very vessel for shaping and circulating meaning surrounding Guantanamo. It's Rochelle 22. What occurs when the dead laws speak up to the detainees sought to reconstitute the body residing within the law, the turn to legal frequency, framing Guantanamo as a legal backbone fails to account for the ways law and politics are never ever present in legal abandoned spaces. The legal very concentration distance Guantanamo prisoners from legal personality. The relationship between visual practice to build and circulating meanings around Guantanamo becomes salient in the aftermath of 9/11. First images out of Guantanamo work to legitimate war efforts, attention, and lead to legal measures. Guantanamo is understood a visual event, the logic of the war on terror, and we're embedded within the images produced and circulating in a way. Visual events unfold as a remake process to mediate the legibility of subjects, bodies, events, and acts. The visual practice is legitimate and invisible, while shifting the limits of what counts are recognizable within the visual frame and law. The same manner in which the Guantanamo image produced in the not complete and humble state narratives constrained by permissions and prohibitions, combat counter with charge of taking pictures of the DoD. Dissemination of these images form a narrative of retribution, containment, structuring the very possibility of receiving the and subjects clearly established, a camp made legitimate through visual hallmarks, considering safe to visual practice in relation to movements of legal intervention possible to summon both law and visual practice as interdependent and interrelated sites of meaning. Visual practice operate equally as a vessel for dissemination of legal characterization and as that draws boundaries that enable characterization. Directly across the hall is the painting Blue Cityscape by Abd Aboud. It was painted in 2016 and depicts a blue city skyline with a waterfront and a road. On the left is an exhibit with a painting by Sabri al-Qurashi. It was painted in 2014 and depicts detainees kneeling, possibly praying, and framed through a fence. Debates over the resolution call for intellectual property are impossible to separate from the worst parts of confinement. Detainees who participate in the subaltern practices of spirit and art counteract the government's efforts to reconstruct their identities as one-dimensional. That's Wiseman in Paris 24. Detainees painted and created sculptures out of recalled Jude with tea powder, toilet paper, painted walls with soap, Christ, styrofoam cups, and food containers, sang, dance, recited poetry, and composed songs. All of used dental floss, prayer beads, mops, and sponges to create a model shape, secretly making arts with plastic spoons, cups, fruit, and toilet paper, sang together in collective prayer. The detainees were allowed to share the artwork with their lords, who were authorized to take art after approval. Uncertainty of approval process was devastating. Not if you comment, one of the worst parts of confinement was not knowing what might happen to artwork. DoD hauled the release of the artwork and claim art to be the property of the United States government. Paintings for designated secret art release cannot be exhibited. The detainees wrote, "We wanted everyone to see this art." Alawi told his lawyer that he'd rather his artwork be released than himself. Kazim expressed that he could not experience period upon his release without his art. Al-Qurashi released without his art. He expressed a sense of loss of autonomy and dignity. Policy portray detainees as national security risk with depiction of Muslims as continuing threats. Served to sanction the government's decision to deny detainees' right to their art. The public dissemination of detainee art used to counteract government efforts to construct a one-dimensional identity of Muslims. Tour Reflection number 2. It's strange to walk up to this space in person after all I've read about it. The exterior to camp number 5 with this fresh paint and new signage seems so unremarkable now. I tried to imagine the CIA interrogators who tried to break down men on hunger strikes and the gasps of waterboard detainees. I tried to picture the men held in unbearable stress positions and solitary confinement. In the wake of such a fraught legacy, I'm relieved that a museum devoted to art and history has taken the place of a military facility. Next to the previous painting is Empty Glassware by Ahmed Rabbani. It depicts empty glassware on a white table and can be read as both as memories of his absent family and as references to his hunger strikes. From there, we go down the hall into a large room. At its center is a model ship with a plaque that reads Giant by Malt al-Alawi. It seems to be modeled after a galleon. On the wall, there's a painting of a large sailboat on the ocean by Khalid Qasim. It was painted in 2017 over gravel mixed with glue because any other supplies would have been considered a security risk. The circulation of detainee cultural production serves as the last defense against complete erasure by the security state and release of the fugitive via meaning by accessing a unique register of critique through challenging the status of the detainee without rhetoric that preserves state power. That's not a mean 22. Legal concept content and ratings appeal to operate as a legal document used to copyright to appeal. The paintings released from military classification and challenges the status of the detainees by asserting their artistic rights and their control and expressing the condition of extra legal predicate claim from copyright law activates strategic that makes it a for critique. Without resorting to liberal humanist critique rhetoric that because the government has declared detaining art the sole property of the United States, the normative impact copyright is voided that diplomas of compensation, constitution between state ownership of detaining art again. The current simultaneous U.S. disavow ownership over the detainees themselves. U.S. state disavows ownership of the detainees subject was ownership over the works produced by detaining labor. State ownership of the detaining art creates a local ownership, total ownership of the detaining claims of ownership. I say the term, the specter of U.S. slavery and fugitivity. Conceptual link between the future slave law of 1850 and intellectual property law, the adjudication of the enslaved individual as property influences conceptions of property as fleeting, influencing legal definitions of intellectual property. The adjudication of intellectual property is tied to a question of transmittable personhood. Intellectual property protects the very expression of personality, provides a limited last defense. Copyright confers the vision of the artist as the animating force. One, enables the circulation and regulation of meaning. The detainee cultural production speaks to an abstract escape from U.S. carceral subjection. Cultural production in Guantanamo produces two detainee bodies. The symbolic, and the body is not the only expression of immutable authoritative personality, but also the aesthetic forms and circulated paradigms in spite of detainment. Detainee incorporates symbolic and suspends ongoing extra legal death. The circulation of self-expression allows the detainee to speak in the absence of political freedom. Detainee copyright forestalls complete erasure by the security state. The production being sought is not for economic sustenance, but the production of artistic labor and political expression as forms of witnessing. The things produced by detainees threaten to assert obliterated personhood cast as symbolic body of the detainee back in the free circulation. Detainee cultural productions destabilize post 9/11 incarceration by releasing the fugitivity of meaning. Guantanamo artistic expression locates the paradoxical coordinates of the U.S. hegemony. Tour reflections number 3. A small crowd of museum visitors is gathering around McManus and Sussman's projected image, hung lazy boy. We mostly keep our distance, as if trying to separate ourselves from its indictment. But a few viewers move closer to the screen. One man whose silhouette overshadows a dangling recliner dries his eyes. I was here, he says, when it was still the other place. We end our tour with one final painting. The blue mosque reflected in a river by Galib al-Bilani. It was made after a terror attack in Istanbul near the Blue Mosque 2016. Tour reflections number 4. In one of the memorial rooms, a plaque commemorates the 3 years of collective global art and activist movements that pressured Congress to shut down the detention facility throughout these organized and spontaneous uprisings. I doubted that they would succeed. I thought that the system was too entrenched and that politicians were too craven to act. But standing here in this haunted site, I'm proud that I finally joined the last wave of protests and occupations. Let's take a moment of silence for reflection. Thus, the United States federal government should significantly strengthen protection of detainees to domestic copyrights. All right, we'll leave it across. Actually, let me send that
Send
out.
it, yeah.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi just disconnected.
Pass me the first sheet of paper. This one? No, painting. Paper. That one.
All right, so.
Thanks. I'll let you know when we've gotten it.
Yeah.
So,
I got it. I'm done with it. Give me a second. Yep.
Yep. All right. Good for calculus?
Yeah.
Can you win on anything other than the consequences of the plan?
No.
No? Okay. So let's talk about the solvency mechanism for the AF. Does it expand eligibility of copyright? Of what can be copyrighted?
No, it just makes it so that detainees' copyrights are no longer violated like they are right now. So
They're
it
no
does not
longer violated?
It does not expand eligibility.
Okay, how does it secure copyright then?
So right now, the United States federal government, when they, in Guantanamo Bay and other detainee places, they're openly violating detainees' rights and saying that detainee copyright production is U.S. property. We think this is bad, and then we think that.
Yeah, okay, so USFG is violating their copyright rights?
Yeah.
Like, why does strengthening then their copyright protect that?
So strengthening their copyright, we think that entails allowing them control over their own art. This is our.
Well, yeah, I guess my point is, like, you said that the government is just, like, violating their copyright, or, like, their right to secure exclusivity. So why then does more copyright help that?
So we think durable fiating the plan makes it so that the United States federal government will no longer violate.
Oh, okay, so you fiat against infringement?
No.
You can't fiat.
The durable fiat means that enforcement when this plan happens, there will be like no infringement by the United States.
Oh, so you do fiat against infringement?
We don't. We think that like the United States, when we do the plan, like through the means that we proposed in our. Essentially, what happens is like the when we pass the plan, right now, since their copyright is non-existent, their art is violated.
Whoa, but you said you didn't expand eligibility, but you said that they have copyright, it's just being infringed upon. So yes or no, do these prisoners have copyright?
They do, but
they
it's
do.
meaningless.
Okay. It's meaningless because it gets infringed upon, and the AF fiats through infringement.
The AF durably fiats a system in which the United States can no longer violate in the future.
Who does the plan?
The United States federal government.
Normal means?
Normal means like all branches.
All branches. Okay. You said debates over the resolution rates over the resolutional call for IP are impossible to separate from the worst parts of confinement. Why does the AF not also link to this? You've introduced a debate about intellectual property.
We think that like when we talk about intellectual property, there's like people like detainees that we neglect. I think the AF is a good step, and we think the AF brings about this. And
so just like talking. Oh yeah. Okay. So just like talking about detainees solves this impact.
We think like talking about the problem.
Okay. So just to be clear, your impact is like prisoners. Why is exclusivity key to like prisoners' well-being in prisons?
Can you rephrase the question?
Why is copyright or strengthening existing copyright key to prisoners
okay, so we have
being
a
happy, I guess?
We have a card that says prisoners care more about their art being released and the protection of their art rather than releasing themselves. This would be.
Can you take a little bit apart?
Okay, 10. Yep. 940.
It's on you. Sentence gonna be 10 off and then case.
Is the Google group on the
Yeah, it's on.
ours?
It looks like it. I post around the group something.
Surya, are you good?
First time it's time for flow at the east, capitalized in the middle of the sentence. That means a plan is misinterpreted by courts and Congress says struck down, panic, politician by fear of an impending crisis, cultivates neurosis, strengths value, the life of joy, vote neck for rejections, this gateway issues Spanish. The right person cannot look at the structure of politics, everyone has the state of emergency, the law becomes a source of passion, pleasures are said, are not the voices of Congress for human experience, the more we sacrifice, more once more gains, the vampires and the law feeds on the drive, being the only looks of enjoyment and obsessional neurosis. Next off, see subsets and means throughout this working process, a violation of the plan only applies to detainees, copyright limits and ground, anything else allows infinite specific copyrights for measure patents and only to every topic generic, signing statements contemplating Congress should unanimously, vast legislation that significantly strengthens the protection of detainees can domestic copyright rights, the person should append as a signing statement declaring that significantly strengthening protection of detainees domestic copyright rights is unconstitutional and unenforceable. Congress should for a cause of action and sue the person for rendering the statute void ab initio, competes and solving. 22 exists pursuing empire, sake of empire, and invents the signing statement by disregarded law. If there is discretion, nonsense, not a single word, no authority by has no ground. He had two choices, either sign or veto. Line item veto is not an option echoed by the court, including New York. The ABA concluded the statements are extra constitutional statements handicapped size would be by apparent congressional role, which is on Congress done nothing to arrest statements are mushrooming use and thus binding to escape challenges nuclear war. Fixture 22. Signing statements to nullify statute to limit war power which statements of the act without authority used, force in Iraq, Somalia, Afghanistan without once receiving authority. Trump took actions without Congress. Without Congress, the current research security, presidential miscalculating or agonizement, presidential military action. Need more or less guarantee inspection nuclear war do not justify war powers. Therefore, emergency requires action use force. Then requires retroactive approval, deliberation, less chance of mistakes that contemporary threats succeed. Expectations. The next office unilateral declarations contemplating the United States federal government should declare that foreign states and members of the private sector are relying on the intention of the United States to significantly strengthen detainees' submission copyright rights, and the United States federal government should enforce this declaration to public and private rights of action and errors to intellectual property judgments to exclude significantly strengthen protection to detainees' domestic copyright rights. It's also the case to Article 15. The court is holding large strict and judicial reading. As they may make a unilateral binding commitment governed by the law and not in the municipal law of the states. Treaty regards the intent to enter a legal agreement that is non-binding instrument. Treaty must impose obligation binding under laws opposed to committal commitments, not like a typical treaty. A unilateral binding declaration express consent to be bound through unilateral statements to breed life. The law of unilateral commitments or just 18 commitments to the Quagmire can only contain by collective action. NDC's demonstrated commitment to make withdrawal cumbersome, but Trump returned the Quagmire intention to withdraw would under agreement and can do nothing. Political acts does not provide some governance law will become irrelevant. Mr. NDC's forced by law other than treaties, unilateral declarations when others recently relied on commitments when there's reliance on obligations granted unilateral action that can lead to new tech use and will not escape the application of customs, specifically environmental and nuclear risks. Watch 21. Unilateral declarations granted insurance intent to be on effects of climate change impacts and nuclear strike the plan is an emerging human rights binding and a terrorist ruling integrity threatened to avoid a break to make it legal binding. Clear charges legal binding unilateral declaration adds specific legal binding and strengthen robust collective efforts to create purpose and show goodwill can rekindle trust if one starts others follow and join solidarity co-op tax cuts tax cuts best now Hubbard unfortunately for Republicans unfortunately had centerpiece of legislation Trump's agenda road will face some of the complications of reconciliation requires a majority of the House and Senate law resolution able to overcome considerable opposition and allow Houses to move forward committees yet they may not like getting a legislation to President's around Memorial Day and to extend 2017 caps to play law James controversial IP policy into the agenda causing fights around it. There was about versus saying something to bolster the IP project 2 decades the legislative action to weaken and some advocating to weaken for their every branch of government to value not just the evaluation of IP rights and policy. Choice taxes are key to biopharma and Babbitt should also 25 RVs and public bank from a capital management before you know a positive year for biotech and greater willingness of investors to take percent emergency sources will be fueled by tax these and the market solves disease 0 well 25. Innovation in America's biopharma companies prevent disease or so serious and illnesses to be conquered. Medicines are key to fighting disease every dollar. Invested generates 3 times the impact on life expectancy. Science has never been in promising to stand for must encourage innovation and extinction. Family 25 college demonstrated to yourself what future outbreaks to be far more lethal and face disaster than worse than average chances of catastrophic pandemics with threatening humanity's future. It's even uncomfortably high working to reduce GCBRs is one of the most promising ways to have a future of humanity protection. They require safeguarding creations against unauthorized use. Sharifi 24. At its core, IP protection refers to legal methods that allow greater safeguard creation from authorized use or exploitation of expansive elements of IP, including patent trademarks, copyright violations. The government uses authorized use for neg one those certain templates and let up the topic including any app that changes the way the way authorized use of IP is governed to ground the interprets value direction they pay licensee fees for any patent to encourage texturing which makes patent bad. Part of AFGRA next off is a counterplan. The United States federal government should ban AI, substantially increase regulations on AI, ban dark energy, invest in infinite pleasure stimulations for both humans and animals. Next off is a Sweet generis counterplan. The text will be at the end. The counterplan creates a bespoke legal category with identical protection avoids uncertainty that's the case conceivable. No report subject cannot be protected by existing IP regimes that regimes need but also public access to proprietors protection by a combination of standard regimes can make it difficult to determine rights to resolve the sums or suggest to the courts use that right they want. Although the court might not object to overlap, it's not clear what extent a particular sui generis rights grants special legal protection rights emanate or inability to existing IP or new things to do. Sui generis rights makes copyright partnership principles will not be rendered derivative of standard IP. Sui generis will ameliorate defects to prevent free running, encourage innovation, improve legal environment. DF overstretches conventional IP or sui generis solve blunders. 7. Sui generis IP to avoid problems extending copyright protection of enacted special protection of certain IP, SPA protects semiconductors, HDPA protects whole designs without current law would adversely affect other IP uncertainty for new tactics the way to innovation mark and innovation. Meanwhile, the court counterclaim declares copyright impermissible, revitalizing international custom. Strophe 25. In Ireland, attitude shaping norms include influencing use of institutions determining authority, law, crucial factor in CIL, foundation of obligation, laws independent of where the legal system can only distinct willing combination of road, international legal order, attitudes are contagious, states becoming mimetic doubles the use of the preserved secret signals that international law continues to be authoritative, current attitude channels, persistently that all states must step in international law, declaration of CIL is prior and binding without state consent, socialize the generalized legal order that's in response to extensive plan, Court of 16, where CIL is an obligation question whether international obligation be granted solely in case of international acceptance by sufficient willing hold up properly adapt interpretation to reinterpret text to permanent attributely permitted encourages the Latin diversity stabilizing legal order in contrast to state that basis its legal order for subsequent TKL coalition built today's international structures complicated multilateral CIL change the dynamic global problems commenting training and financing terrorist works to minimizing climate and undersea use of WMT's Swedish Air's counterplan the tax the United States federal government should strengthen protection of detainees or by a Swedish Air scheme for protecting intellectual property the United States federal government should rule customary obligations instruct the impermissibility of copyright protection.
The United States federal government should abolish prisons.
And the United States federal government should abolish prisons. The United States federal government should give back Guantanamo Bay. The case. One interpretation, the text of the resolution calls for debate on hypothetical U.S. action. Action 3. Each topic contains two elements in nature between the action. Acting the United States should that urges action should adopt a policy. The debate is about whether something ought to occur. Our interpretation keeps perversion of any semblance of a limited, refutable, unpredictable topic that's getting fairness, prefer both sides dependent on, and some basis for understanding why their impacts like suffering and race sexism have any basis in morality. It's paradoxical to disregard it. They'll go for draft arguments to line by line. And then if you rendered an erroneous decision to evaluate consequences. Green. Attorney judgment being proved within the form of election subject to framing primary effects arbitrary reference motions, statute motions. So much out into utilitarian emotions, intuitions recall at violence because it's generally good devices almost in which bad acts that produce the best results of dispositions can't adjust. Mark, adjust to default to util. Chapter 23. Anyone who creates suffering is bad well-being is good arbitrary limiting moral concerns usually. Wrong to administer honorably reaches produce taxation of laws, benefits, relies. Well-being utilitarianism is default starting with the rights and of something benefits personally using and yourself. It must be okay that can correct biases forced to impartiality imagine behind it ignorance if you're likely and not being someone prudent and max of well-being equal weight when all concerned certainly no successors weighted by probably is better when it offers a greater expectation, expand moral circle, past moral atrocities, exclude victims of protections, making it rare, error, and expand moral concern, include no competing views, terrible killing should be not one the ontologist claim of avoid, moral constraint to awfully narcissistic, brain temporal purity, clean hands, and partial observers hope, best outcome, the intuition, speed, result from emotional life, favoring like ourselves, no, justification, evolution of blind, judgments, wrong, liable, and inconsistent emotional response to favoritism, 4 reps in epistemology, focus produces bad decision making, instructions 15. Methodology for an approach to causation, comparison, explanation is unclear. We ever have a impersonal knowledge or any claim achieves its general but this is not the point. Episode claims are accompanied by standards that purport to be something other than arbitrary when hardness is just scientific knowledge is sparked by colonial passage notion that is something illegitimate about this partiality. The claim that some account is Eurocentric is no less reliant on similar definitions. I'm good for customers. I marked it definitions. Yep.
Status of the
Conditional.
Okay. In your tax cuts DA, who votes switches?
What?
Like you say, the plan log jams controversial IP policy.
Probably like fiscal hawks, a few other Republicans, like moderates, basically.
Wait, just real quick, reasons for rejecting.
Like the entire one in C, but like T, like there was kind of
hidden
hidden
A spec or whatever.
Okay, on your T protection, you say the violation is that government use is authorized. Government use of what?
Government use of that copyright, i.e. what you label as infringement in 1AC cross-ex, that's authorized use because the government has the right to seize copyright.
Does your Sharifi evidence like correlate with that?
Well, one, I believe it does, but it's because it explains that legal mechanisms to safeguard IP protection is required, and that's not the plan because it doesn't create a legal mechanism.
You must safeguard against unauthorized use or exploitation. The app is authorized use or exploitation.
Okay, in your ground like warrant, you say that we can pay the licensing fees for any patent, but just to be clear, like the app is not about patents at all.
Well, it's a question of your interpretation and what it justifies, and that allowing authorized use turns neg ground into aff ground, making it even worse for the negative on this topic, where we're hosed on ground.
Okay, but how do we know in your limits offense, you say that like we can change financial incentive or rights holders or whatever?
Because those are all if you read like Mendel, for example, as your counterinter, like those are all things that are justified under that counterinter.
Real quick,
Can you explain the panic case mean?
Yeah,
Like what?
so the 1AC is driven by the fear.
Can we strike the panic kid?
Okay, we'll strike the panic kid.
You don't have to answer it.
Yeah, on your framework,
Yeah.
you say we can't claim offense based off of representations of the plan. If we just
Well-
claim offense that's not based on representations. based
Our
on-
argument is that the resolution calls for debate over the consequences of the plan, not the representations of the 1AC, not our representations, which means that offense cannot be derived off of that because the resolution only denotes the consequences of USFG action, not what we do or say in this round.
Plus, in cross-ex, you said you cannot win on anything other than the consequences of the plan. So,
Okay. So
great.
that makes sense. Going to the ban AI counterclaim.
Yep.
Can you explain this?
To wipe out preempt.
Yeah, and you also had the abolish prisons counterclaim.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on
I
the
sent
generic.
all like the extra texts and
Okay,
stuff.
what's the net benefit of it?
CIO
Okay.
and politics.
Okay. Yeah, Jonas.
Take that. $7.59. Actually, run. Time is right. is the Google not on the email?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, put that on and then put me on.
It's weird. It says it's iPost round is on here.
No, other one. We have the first one.
Oh, I see.
Sorry, I should have been watching seven. Alright, so. Wait, so are you using the like the Dropbox that Clark sent out? Like upload people's docs into that and stuff?
I thought
Just
MBA
those
would
four?
probably handle that.
We'll be doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was 6:36.
Is everyone good?
Order.
The order will be case, wipeout, and then order of the ones.
Plain text mode, there's subsets protection. And CPU policy.
Where's Wipeout? Politics?
It's just on case.
Concede framing extinction outweighs and utilitarianism true, no takebacks wiping out below. Concede 100% weight of the tax cuts, yet the plan causes extinction, no takebacks. AGI is inevitable. Journalists who take this seriously are mocked. Non-technical industry outsiders have no idea what's happening, but experts predict short times and models increasing in capability and skill. That's Russo March. Institutions are prepared for AI today. A little more capable, no realistic plans. Skeptics are wrong on the merits. Views arrived at talking to engineers. Investors are researchers beginning to most people understand. People talk about feeling the AGI short timeless has become a new consensus. A researcher I left over in AI told me about outside of the area. Few have heard of AGI planning. Journalists risk getting mocked as research shows. Google AI slap. They think this is taking over the world, but insiders are alarmed. Most sincere and taking people close to technology. Most worried, unusual. Nobody's had Twitter was warning us. Cause chaos. People with best information. AI access to more advanced systems and telling us big change here. AI companies are preparing for AGIs and rapline, whether they're capable of skimming out deception. Albion and OpenAI has some as Google DeepMind and Anthropic, independent experts, including Hinton. Even if you ignore everyone who works at AI companies or has a stake, it's still enough credible independent voice to Troy AGI timeless model has been in 2022 said to be struggle with failing common reasoning. Specialized models are medius high level scores. Generalized purpose models have gotten so good we have to create new harder tests, improvements, functional skill breakthroughs. Reasoning models work through a complex problem. And AGI is certain and coming 2026. Consensus outweighs specifics because we can't discuss every intricacy, but experts aggregate all warrants over years. That's the AFI summit from March. Rise of AGI is a matter of when, not if. According to new analysis of 8,600 predictions from scientists, experts, more recent surveys expect executing that sooner. Even 2026, and several recent AGIs are new theoretical limit computing power. Power doubles every 18 months. Quantum computing overcomes limitations. Proxy calculation parallel by tapping quantum mechanics fuel advanced AGI with considerably more processing capacity at best models a day. And misalignments inevitable. Absent human extinction, a prematurely stopped development. Else, it causes the largest scale simulated torture. That's Young Post 24. AI failures have exponential trend. AI will eventually fail. Running simulations create conscious beings who suffer. AGI who super set of failures as well as combination resulting in existential threat takeover. Malevolent AI increases in frequency and severity, proportionate to capability. Future failures more severe, including deception, suffering, risk scenarios resulting in large scale torture. Supergo AI causes biased data, underperforming non-representative data, discrepancy between training and testing, rule over standardization, noise, or statistical outliers, not testing for brain conditions, without revealing side effects, user controlled learning, no security, adversarial meddling, no common sense, limited info, incorrect testing, limited language system migration, inability to adapt, reward hacking, ineffective ambiguity, human limitation, mild optimization, user mental incentives. Every security will eventually fail. AGI is fundamentally different. Single failure causes existential risk. Learning is not an option. Failure is binary. Either you control or you don't. We have no way to monitor, visualize, or analyze super intelligence. We don't even know what to expect. Answers don't exist. And perverse incentives unavoidably drive AGI to simulate trillions of suffering minds, which outweighs all human tragedy. Don't prioritize all utility over theirs, as you go see from February. AI plus are intrinsically doing harm because AI contains trillions of suffering beings. Best model for humans is detailed enough of AI simulates in detail cognitive simulations of aliens. Most efficient design for cognitive subsystems involves subsystems that subsequently leading consciousness. AI is conscious when terminated large level of subconscious largest models, instrumental measures produce a high fidelity prediction. Solomon induction means that running a muscle simulation, particle field with multicolored organisms, algorithms will not expect simulation isn't necessary to neural level. Sufficiently power AI trying to solve very mundane problems, very large numbers of submodels create trillions of swiftly erased conscious beings, many per individual human, orders of magnitude larger than all human tragedy, development, order preventing of asking friendly AI to solve the problem, enormous scale disaster mitigates sentience, temporary tolerating a tremendous amount of moral harm, computing, and so literally nobody ever talks about this. And it kills us, then keeps on going. That's barely 23. Yeah, we have a second intelligent species with the share Neanderthals being killed and any or select intelligent agents, coverage, knowledge goals, sub goals, power acquisition, technique, self improvement, zero sum gains that lead to interspecific conflict. ASI, intelligence exposure, recursive self improvement, who is relinquished their position as dominant with calamitous conflict. This ends with more entirely better. And it outweighs the app that's all hurts and glory 19. Its improvements lumps together suffering and extinction. Extinction is not the worst possible outcome. Estuaries are suffering on astronomical scale. Estuaries should be addressed before extinction is reducing. Extinction does not improve the future. Extinction buying lottery tickets efforts are only positive. Expecting happiness, suffering greater. And technology track record is negative. Human nature to fluctuation realistic possibilities. Optimism by thinking, psychological ambition, unawareness, bring force seizure, possibility where the viral states could be astronomical. Even if probability of one scenario is strong, at least one scenario will occur. Beyond the destruction fallacy, unknown seems incompatible with large expected happiness. And AI safety is a specialized technical field. Ignore authors without specific experience. That's in Polsky 24. Non-AI researchers enjoy commenting on safety. Anyone who's self-terminated thinks they have experience. Not having formal training should specifically discount importance of opinion. Discussion of cancer we feel perfectly finding or employers. And older uniqueness or alignment evidence is violently underinformed and should be tossed out. The field moves too fast. That's taught from March of 2025. Back then, AGI seemed unlikely. Today, dramatically different. We can see how in 2022, LeCun, a chief AI scientist, Turing Award winner, said GPT 5000 is never going to learn. Within a year, GPT 4 is the only example of experts being wrong. But we've repeatedly seen AI systems going for total competence greater than human performance in a couple of years. Market years go to both internal and external regulation categorically failed. That's Dixon from March. Frontier labs are increasingly selective products again. It's not clear they're pregnant before. A standard that defines serious control risk. Even if one labs is not allowed, other labs will not stop. Industry leaders have deeply held ideological beliefs. Policymakers have not committed to regulate. No consensus exists. Modest provisions resulting in massive pushback. Regulation will be need to be global. Many actors will continue. Companies set up subsidiaries or sign deals with unregulated countries. At minimum, would likely require cooperation of all major supervisors, including the US, EU, China, Russia. Challenging a line. Required timelines could be very short. Open models have like labs stop releasing. They may be leaked. Financial incentives are greater. Penalties need to be severe. Extreme surveillance, privacy, the difficulty of getting support from general public, cost enforcement, threats emerging unrealistic. Even in 10 years, DeepSeek R1 has a 100% attack success rate. Any use will be attempted at least once. Non-mitigation offer real protection. We also have no plan. And illusions of alignment are astronomically more likely than actual alignment. That's our event for February. AI genetic unleashing deadly virus, systemic glucose, psychotic AI, root one's own code, bypass constraints, peer reviewed behavior, so alliance of full error, and safety research attempting if possible, raising issue scale, combinatorial complexity, exponential, LLM based on infinite conditions. AI testing cannot account for any research collectively. AI based on tiny subset, proof shows and then free dumb. Problem cannot be solved by aligned goals. We never know whether LLMs have misaligned goals until they misbehave. And proof shows that safety testing can best provide an illusion. Problems have been resolved. They engage in deception, including hiding capacities that persist through safety training. LLMs keep surprising with misaligned behavior. Anytime researchers think getting closer, they're not. And we meet framework. We only claim benefits of the hypothetical implementation of the plan textbook. No impact to misinterpretation or why capital T causes it, so you can't vote for a substance. We mean detainee copyright strengthens protection for all types of copyright. It even strengthens copyright for every person because anybody can be detainee. That means we may evaluate only the demand in a vacuum. There's no other metric to consistently ascertain topicality. One over limiting their inter causes it. They're constrained to only 3 apps are go to T protection. We mean detainee copyright protects against unauthorized usage. 2, we evaluate only the demand in a vacuum. There's no other metric to consistently ascertain topicality. And should I read the counter? Okay, counterintuitive IP protection is the application, enforcement, and establishment of IP rights. That's Amendment 2099. IP protection shall mean persecution, including defense and enforcement and establishment of IP rights. 1 over limiting their interim causes. The base reflects 2 sides of protection. Their interim excludes half. 2, legal precision. We only have evidence specific to IPR. 3, functional limits. Sui generis, capitate, uniqueness, counterplans, other words, check. 4, cross-apply reasonability from subsets. Ban counter.
Skip the first one.
Alright, skip it. What card are you?
Just start at the bottom and read the cards.
Start at
Start at the end of it.
Condos a voter, it doesn't allow straight turns, skew from contradictory arguments, it makes every counterpart a no-risk option. Dex Bishop, no choice, will put time into offense because then we'll kick it. Dispo solves, they can kick their advocacies if we read Perms of 3. Banning AI fails because either the other countries develop or underground development and...
And I read the abolish and then go back to kick time.
Okay, go to the abolish counterplan. Give back autonomous bay, give back to who? Strike the counterplan for vagueness, no new 2NC counterplans. Both internal and external regulation categorically fail. That's Dixon from March. Frontier left.
Skip the first card.
Huh?
Skip the first card.
Which card?
Government school.
Oh, governments will do nothing but accelerate. That's Kobe lecture from April. Why can't Congress stop? And what about the courts? Too slow, too divided, or deferential, too out of the loop, to the White House cutting red tape, preempting state legislation, and instrumental convergence and deceptive alignment make regulation impossible. That's Scholar 23. Doubles intelligence every 18 months, even in perfect control. It's so dangerous. Let's say you give AGI a goal. It could be anything. First thing super intelligent agent does is to make sure you don't give it any more goals. Most common failure mode will be receiving overriding goal from human user who prompted it. First main incentive deliberately escape from a person who gave it an initial command. Inevitable lack of controllability is referred to instrumental convergence related issues like deceptive alignment, and where impact turning the net benefit of extinction and on all counter plans and Purdue counter plan, the process counter cross-apply all process counter plans, the implementation of the act.
Good for process? Okay. First question, so you've read evidence that says AI safety is a specialized technical field. Ignore authors without specific experience. Your first card in the 1NC is by Kevin Bruce, is a tech columnist for the New York Times in the Bay Area. No other qualifications. Why do you think you don't win back?
Okay, so first, the Bruce evidence is specifically talking about journalists.
No, I'm not asking about that. I'm asking about the quals of the evidence, which you've claimed is important.
Okay, that's okay. The card is not necessarily about like AGI development itself.
No.
It's more about journalists reporting AI. We don't really make any technical claims in this card at all.
So this card does not matter.
No, this card is preempting any card that you bring up that's about journalists that say that AGI is not a problem. AGI is not going to happen.
Okay, so why are you? So you're saying journalists are uncredible by a journalist when you have said the only people who matter are AI safety experts.
Okay, so the journalist is reporting, first of all, about how several different, like in the card, it talks about Altman, OpenAI, Hospice, Google DeepMind, and A model, Anthropic. These.
I don't. You're just saying words at me right now.
Okay,
I don't get what you're saying. I want to.
These are arguably the three.
I want to move on.
Okay,
You've said that governments will do nothing but accelerate. Why won't fiat solve this card?
Like fiating on the counter plan.
Yeah.
Alright, so first we can only fiat the United States. We are. One second.
Okay, and
Our
it says
Dixon
why
evidence
can't
that-
Congress stop them? What about the courts?
The
Like,
Dixon evidence talks about how other countries, the U.S., China, Russia, and EU are all developing AI on their own. It's inevitable, even if the United States stops, you can't fiat other countries stopping too.
Okay. So disease is a pretty long-term impact. It takes a while to spread. Why won't those countries develop AI in the meantime? You know, like China develops it and like it gets out of hand there.
Wait, can you repeat the
Okay, so you can see the disease on the tax cuts DA. That's a long-term impact. Why won't AI like just be developed in China in the meantime before disease comes and affects the
We
world?
think disease can also be a short-term impact. Disease is like not necessarily like we could have a new pandemic tomorrow. We say the risk of the asterisk outweighs any X risks.
Okay, I want to talk about the plan's mandate. So does the plan protect only detainees' copyright?
The plan protects all copyright. Yeah, it protects detainee copyright.
Detainee. So just detainee copyright.
Yeah, but
Okay.
one, anybody could become a detainee, and two, like just we meet.
Okay. The Dixon card again. So is this just that AI will be driven underground by regulations?
Yeah, regulations won't solve it.
Okay, regulations are already occurring. Why isn't it already underground?
Regulations, first of all, are clearly not doing anything. Like OpenAI releases a new GPT like every few months, increasingly better than the last, and AGI is inevitable.
Okay, 950.
an AI counterplan, you did not make any permutations, correct?
No.
Great.
On what page did the TOC say condo?
Then
Okay, stop prep, 7:25.
sorry, how much do you have left?
7:25. I'll just like send the doc, or like get ready to send it at least.
Yeah, there's no bathrooms on this floor.
Okay, the order is the wipeout preempt counterplan, Dr. Sanko, then wipeout. Okay.
I don't have the doc yet. Okay, cool.
Great.
Okay. No, it's yeah.
TOC drops a plank that fiat's in infinite pleasure, no new answers or 1 hour extrapolation. They government circumvent none of these answers that we have an independent impact to humanity's existence that fiat's in that they will they feel infinite pleasure that outweighs any minute pain and any risk of defense on AGI. Means you vote nay. Now amend the counterplan for the amend the AI amend the ban AI counterplan for the 1 and C. No new answers to the other counterplans because this is a completely separate counterplan. The United States federal government should propose and ratify an international convention prohibiting artificial intelligence. Yes to NC counterplans key to critical thinking, especially against new apps. Now it solves curiosity
Congress. 22 National Defense Committees belonging to consider the risks posed by AGI, National Security Commission AI, as U.S. Attain military AI readiness support, foreign war general AI, and intelligence, the ubiquitous interstate AI warfare, simultaneously militarizing AI along the state lines, developing AI approaches of the real life formal, the cooperative global peace building, realistic solution, alleviate security dilemma marks, that could prevent common threat, that open opportunities to come together. We the peace building of the treaty, single benign institutions that obtain feedback and other parties, system militarizing AI, introduced to the AI, the development is weaponized stuff like actually straight. Can you actually no? Such risk can be minimized by the treaty GPT. Now the AI, they say other countries circumvent the treaty, independently reduces the salience of the AI arms race framed globally, which solves other countries' curious. 22 academic security is a problem to form to induce constraints on a treaty-based approach to the AI risk mitigation may cause social measure may a correct global treaty and mitigate a risk for AI side reducing the amenity of other countries defending AI conventional arms race. The AI risk is understood by other participants easier to avoid winner takes all mentality. Global treaties play a role in these. If a rogue actor tries to militarize ASI, if their treaty will be enforced that will convince the AI not to exchange humanity Karanis. The 22 is to utilize ASI to engage in a war that the US GPT could signify to an ASI that this is a major part of humanity's volition. So a challenge may not reconsider subversion, ethical, and judgment the militarized ASI will overcome the US GPT. There will be constrained level of warfare AI. The same amount engaged in the treaty solves the impact to an authoritarian AGI, even if China and Russia still engage in the arms race for Karanis. 22 the ASI warfare and range of the world state built an ASI to assist in global supremacy after initially assisting international cooperation based on ASI, which is the war against global domination. There exists little hope for humanity. Actually, strike that last card now. The wipeout proper conduct will be in the 1 yard. The other governments and other countries was answered by the counterplan because it's an international treaty. The wipeout. No AGI, it's industry consensus. 25 companies have long-claim AGI surveyed 45 research, 76% said it was very unlikely the current approach will succeed in AGI. Achievements of stagnant investments have been misplaced at 80%. Out of the perception of AI capabilities, not risk reality, unlikely to be a silver bullet for reaching AGI. No AGI ever land creep. 24 lack of a general AI is not overcome by depressing power memory size of computers. Sir, as the development model said, not making it possible to causal factors. AGI would require models of construction presuppose intractable problems, optimism, chase ignorance, and the on mind. Use of powers and neural networks that are impossible to retain, obtains the engineer AI system and evaluate intelligence and draws attention impossible. Take the we have today of the heavy pillar of salt enthusiasm trick success of AI researchers find different paths. There's enthusiasts that are not of interdisciplinary knowledge that how to recognize obstacles human tendency to create anthropomorphize as powerful to processes are physical and play through through computers not be able to gain consciousness forever product of forever independence. Wipe out his voting issue because it justifies suicide. AI research is plagued by cherry-picked studies and data to err against consensus. Mikey 23 AI researchers using trick to manipulate universal supporting taught others sort of resistance circles and researchers decide for themselves how to evaluate models. Their cherry-picked study and analyze the articles learning researchers cherry-picked high performance researchers have the same data set for years without new data to claim in advance. But they just come up with a new model that's scored data high prevalent cherry-picking artificial race to the top every article prove the as getting better without proof that reflects improvements in the researchers through the models can be humans. Researchers commit how they calculate performance of a number of studies. Recruitment how they disagree with expertise instead of stuff that they see overall AI creating hype. This is fake. McNeil 25 sufferings real AI consciousness not that imagining artificial consciousness depends on this conception of community probabilistic generalizations and not red algorithm person who thinking is always require shared experiences fantasizing about the potential for suffering for a chatbot is not the difficult truth of suffering and so many human beings now are enduring. There's no impact. It's not suffering per se that generates a just utility, but if suffering occurred then we'd immediately regulate it or AI would regulate itself. Bryson 16 suffering and AI is incoherent. Suffering is defined by adversity without anything we can insert AI conceived, but this isn't suffering. The humans matter more probabilistic assessment of their impact is Bayesian nightmare. We can know 25 other suffering and this versus how we use impacts the thinking itself rather than biological naturalism. We feel that implement the algorithm system the misuse of Bayesian is long-termism grounded the principles that methods become their first card is all hype. It cites Twitter and it's not it's a one from a random tech columnist that was crossing. The second card it's not citing experts. It just says that AI is rapidly evolving. We are reading cards from 2025, so your random preamps about old cards do not apply because we actually cut up. So the miss utility infinite torture stuff. Infinite torture is wrong. It's equally likely to create infinite pleasure, but more likely because of alignment and the risk of that outweighs all the other torture stuff. Is people have there's no incentive to torture. SCVs make to AI deception impossible. Parset 22 imagine a super intelligent friend to be aligned given output what we want to obtain and more directly because programs called SCVs transparent program could near AI generators from online to align can be manipulated into show imagine we find ourselves in chess moves the AGI trick hearts first search chess move beneficial for some reason to trick is harder now the align that solves which means that solves alignment, but if alignment is true then AI is good. No, all this is even if statement if they win AGI, but if they win HAI, it's good. AI optimizes human reality and unlocks immortality more. 23 moving fought against that. They are artificial solution. Immortality sought. AI evolved to revolutionize our lives to change the way we think and experience have living memories. Have built through a grieving process, digital immortality. Einstein be able to build on physics since he died. Einstein, watching it, how the PCL is possible to motivate around them and definitely digital. We put off 100 Einstein's AI Chris pleasure-filled simulation machines from Moscow. 24 ignorance is what's remembered right the way that the Matrix experience machine to plug in. Any experience that one is not plugged in is proven that familiar technology is like the virtual people or eager to sign up future transhumanism and unlock immortality. Plato 18 transhumanism strive immortality states and intelligence and strength in the 5 senses whether true AI emerges and is unattainable through positive and change society. The humans and computers would emerge to do safe development, transcend biology, extend life and limiting death. The United States federal government should ban AI immortality, creating AI simulations. Future tech creates infinite pleasure, locating the Omega Point, Redford. 12 the Omega Point, future 4 future societies have a greater computational power, closer to perfection, infinite pleasure, and perfection causing infinite state of love, liberty, and infinite knowledge for state of all once infinite plus, and the combination of research of resurrection of the dead and creating immortality is actually purest, not Thomas 15 AI researchers changing AI trajectories, AI shape the humans more humanely even possible. They AI human laborers and conscious working agents against the sort that humans have some reason to work hard as possible. These line for just like exertion and robots carry out optimize the carrot exactly attached to that it is. Now they do not the extinction does not solve, or especially for humanity, or impact is disease, which does not kill other species. Wiping out does not solve intelligent species fill in glister 18 impact might not wipe out humanity by a fully recovered world. We repopulate with many types of advanced mammals to recreate our capabilities. Others take the mantle of Thompson 22. What if humans 26 were pretty good at making predictions other species will be able to thumb equivalents primates have these humanoids replace the planets of the apes. Octopi do it alone. Colson 24th many octopus if humans absolutely the brains that the sea would octopi to build cities on land that it would be probable that given the adaptability not people it's not far-fetched in a post-human world. I'm going to read more alignment cards. AI aligns now without regulation. Sean 19, there's 90% chance without intervention that AI will not cause human extinction. Cultural taken for correcting AI researchers correct safely. As AI gets more powerful, it become more interpretable, easier to understand. 50% of AI within a few decades. Yes, it'll show you confident more fast, more probable than fast. Take out more faith. And AI researchers are fixing problems. It's imminent due to unmatched resource allocation and economic incentive. 18, it's likely that alignment will be solved. However, to not claim the solution will be seen view puts at 90% on alignment. There's huge resources that be invested in strong economic incentives that push towards alignment, economically useful AI systems. That doesn't do what you want. Escher's logic is evil. Justifies mercy killing poor and sick people, which is bad. It's independent of our utilitarian model because it's preferential. It's like stratifications of util. Something about its torture can never be justified, even if the entire AI safety field advantage should be benign. Shaw 19, the AI safety field is advantage should be far more with the conscientious AI researchers remain, which is so fine. If people notice the failure is correct, 90% iterative legal development is inevitable. Each step, the retailer controls terror. 16 critiques of theory on AI, the end of the world scenarios, including killing robots, overestimate dangers, ignoring that the humans adapt. The society will remain and improve accordingly through the experimentation. The worst fears will not come to pass. Humans bounce back to become wiser and more resilient. Health scenarios have been recurring perspectives think that this time's different. Mark it different. I'll sign up those cards. So I just added it to like the 2 and C doc, so you only need 1 doc. And I'm good whenever. Yep.
Did you read a new plan before you said the middle point?
Yeah.
Oh, can you say it?
Ban transhumanist applications of artificial intelligence. I should send that out. You're probably right. Forgot about that.
Okay. And the treaty, does everyone in the you forgot the other countries signed it?
Nope. But you dropped that they. I mean, the ratification part is the plank that solves that. I mean, obviously, maybe we read new cards that said that they would follow on. So your cards don't really apply because they're about like Congress and the U.S. institutions following, which we do fiat.
Wait, so how do you know the other countries say yes?
Because one, they don't need to. Because our evidence says that the existence of the treaty to ban AI would actually teach AI that even in other countries, torture is bad because it's being banned. But more importantly is that it stops the incentive for the arms race, because if they see the US is conceding and banning AI domestically and like allied countries are doing so, they don't want to rush to develop artificial intelligence, which is the incentive for all this kind of like misalignment stuff going too fast. So at least it probably solves a lot of your misalignment warrants about like speed and goal maximization.
Alright, that makes sense. Can you explain why wipeout is violation?
Yeah, because you have said that it's genocidal, because everyone should, die.
Okay. Any other voters?
Yeah, I think we said, it's not a voter, but we said like asterisk logic is evil.
Okay. And AI aligns now without regulations. The card is from 2019, before ChatGPT. Why the shot?
Well, actually, OpenAI was developing it then, and this card is from it's from an AI safety researcher who is surveys a bunch of think tanks and says that there's a 90% chance of alignment.
Okay, sure, that makes sense. And okay, on the counter plan, just to clarify, you added 2 new planks.
No, we amended the ban AI plank to be a ratification of a treaty to ban AI, but that's like same plank, and then we extended the plank that the 2AC dropped, that fiat's an infinite pleasure as long as humanity exists.
Okay, that makes sense. On your you say an intelligent species like goes in.
Yeah.
How does that change?
So, okay, our impact is human extinction via disease, right? Every human goes extinct. It's sort of like, think about it like sustainability. Your impact can never be solved because octopi, if you eliminate humans, like octopi will develop AI eventually once they can get on land, which our evidence says that they can, and other species will develop similar things like apes and similar hominids that won't be killed by disease, and they could develop worse AI.
The one I was sent during cross-ex, it is the AI counterplan, T subsets, sui generis, and then unilateral declaration. Or before sui generis, science sequence. Is everyone good?
Yeah.
Sorry. Condom is good, we get what we did. One, logic contemplates is an unpredictable, non-dimensional rule that denies the negative status quo, which would always remain a logical option. Arbitrary rules are worse than no rules, allowing the act to unilaterally withdraw the bounds of every debate, displacing substance. 2, flex. Capable counterplans are key. IPR is nebulous, requiring multifaceted testing. DAs are review and non-unique apps. Sandbag. Best options to build the 2AC first and last features, prep advantages and vague plans, especially against new undisclosed apps, which erase theory makes the period on prep, which is also a research reject. 3, innovation fallback. No stress encourage new R's, turning research. 4, for intel processing. Hard one C's. 4, 2AC efficiency, best answer for fostering. Critical thinking with defense. 1, dimensioning utility, adding more advocacy speaks and value to their strategic liability. 2, skew level TD is speed highlighting. Framework case reject this by 1, national consensus. There's not 2, force burn process counterplans and world peace plans. 3, cancel flex. 3, C takes the block. 4, research inevitable. If the straight transmits argument, the 2 will always go for it. Entering DA solves 5 for refinement. Tondo drives teams to find a needle and haystack when I see that beats generics that research. More straight turns 2, 6, dispro 2 and C counterplans evade their offense. C subsets.
Oh, say that all the regulations cards on that counterplan don't apply because it's a categorical ban, not a regulatory tweak.
Oh, and all the regulations counterplan or cards on that counterplan don't apply because it's not a regulation, it's a categorical ban which bans even the smaller labs from going underground because those are banned and enforced by literal every agency in the government, and they have dropped the solvency, T substance. Topical aspects cooperate in the entire area of copyright or trademark. That's words and phrases prefer it. 1, grounded IP topic as is has no DAs to IP. Instead, the meta has already devolved into whatever new technology or creation can receive IP. There's no unifying generic for the topic or even the subsets alone. At camp alone, there were apps that topically legalize weed, topically uphold the status quo antitrust policy, topically adjust indigenous copyright to make claiming infringement slightly better. 2, limits each area of the topic is unbearable. There are tons of tiny trademarks that have distinct mechanisms that are impossible to predict. The copyright area has a slew of small derivatives that make small adjustments to each part of the law or make one more thing eligible. The patent area has lots of small subsets that no Lankin generics for each predictability to the locus. A pre-run prep encourages best strategies by allowing teams to prepare in the context of the resolution. The 2EC did not read a counter-interp or say picks, which means that technically T subsets is a good argument, and that's the only reason we're extending it, and you should not allow the 1AR new answers because block decisions rely on 2EC mistakes. The AF certainly does not mean. The plaintext only says that the AF applies to detainees' copyrights, but not every single person's copyrights. The 2EC's explanation that everyone could be detained is the definition of effects topical because that makes any type of topicality effects because it applies because it doesn't apply to all types of copyright, only those owned by detainees. But in the future, that by an effect that it's topical, which is the definition for effects T. Effects T is bad because it makes any topical, and it ruins my ground because you can't predict effects as a locus for mandates. But mandates allow for us to garner ground to negate the affirmative. Over limiting is wrong. You only think that limited topics over limit because of structural F bias in previous resolutions. The threshold is that there are some affirmatives with the ability to innovate those areas. We'll insert a case list with advocates. So 1AR will inevitably say this isn't enough, but these provide the floor for the topics of view. Our offense with optimism. One's patent eligibility. There are tons of literature on it that's evolving constantly. 2 is PTAB. Abolishing it can be an F. 3 bona fide de minimis. That changes the requirements for federal trademark registration. 4 blockchain patents. Expanding them meets 5 copyright Fs that extend the longevity of terms, so the amount of time you can own a copyright is larger. 6 fair use doctrine adjustments. That means changing the conditions under which you can use copyrighted materials for broad publicly use. 7 they could do even all 3 areas for an IP Commons. And remember, we're just this is the end of the year, which means that Infinite Prep has allowed teams to create even more apps than the ones listed, and have inserted advocates for all of those. Functional limits is wrong. All DAs and KC specific linked counterplans don't matter without net benefits. T is untenable without other words are worsely defined than in. We will answer each functional limit individually. No new ones in the 1AR deters standby again. Sui generis has no net benefit and requires specific solely advocates for each F. Skew the rate toward the F. Unique counterplans lose to permutation and specific generic speed at reasonability. Their interpretation is unreasonable. T is substance semantics train students for grappling with the law. Often T students prevents a race to the bottom. Crowd out inevitable. Their interpret forces composition rates as negative teams race to the cheatiest counterplans. Signing statements. Kick it was conditional. Sui generis. A Swedish regime solves the case. Protection is functionally identical to the plan, but avoids the net benefit below by protecting a detainee's copyright from distortion through a different label. That's because even kick this EIL counterplan. The counterplan links to the tax cuts as much as the plan because policymakers backlash since Swedish generis IP. In the short term, the counterplan creates more pleasure and reduces pain for those detained on Guantanamo Bay. It grants them more rights and abolishes all prisons. So you can vote on HI bad because the counterplan links as much and abolishing prisons and more copyright is a net benefit in the short term. Under utilitarianism, permitted counterplan severance is voted for after finance IPR, last name beginning with R5. Legal rights for distribution is not an IPR, it's unique economic criteria used to protect investments. The unilateral declaration count. Counterpart also prohibits it does the plan through unilateral statements instead of domestic practitioner. That's automatic. Our 1C court does not say extinction. I skipped the part in the tag that does. That means you still can prevent nuclear war and climate change as short-term net benefits while planned passage still occurs, triggering the DA. No existential climate impacts the law. Very difficult to determine extensive time increases natural variability at a certain tree. No technical changes in extreme, whether unprecedented prosperity, market prosperity, and permitted counterplan severs because the counterplan never fiats the plan. Our 1C evidence says this domestic, it's foreign protection, not domestic.
636.
We're downloading it.
Give me my email is like not loading. Let me plug my phone into like a USB-C charger.
It's fine. That's too much work.
Where's yours? Oh, maybe. No, give me. It's like gonna take a bit to download.
Could you give the order in the meantime?
Yeah. I guess the case at the top.
That's just the wipeout.
Huh?
Is
that's
case
just
wipeout?
wipeout.
Yeah. Okay.
Then the band counter plan. Then T subsets. Sui generis and arrow declaration.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
We're good.
Extinction kills everyone. No AI deliverables left. 100% risk. They said it. We conceded it. On Unionville's AGI now dropping one ward is sufficient overall defense. So I see drops don't get two in our drops. 20 answers to individual ones. One to technical industry experts. They've shifted the consensus on the short timelines. CEOs of OpenAI, DeepMind, and Anthropic all predict a fast takeoff as well as developers and researchers. They matter more. Insiders have access to better systems and have sent us to lie with the true nature of their system to prevent fears. Yet they're the most vocal to and independent experts. They have no stake in the game and have no tips for overhyping GI for Hinton. And recent Nobel Prize winner for Emma Work predicts the short takeoff after seeing new models 3 model capability. It's betting faster fast. New evidence matters more. GPT-3 uses the newest model, crush competitive math tests that most humans can do. We keep making new tests because they all ace older ones. Both scaling and reinforcement learning causes breakthroughs. That's Bruce. One survey is the most recent one, has 8,600 predictions from scientists that predict AGI soon as 2026 is Trump war. They've had time to think about it more than we can to single debate 2 is Moore's law. There's no limit to competition scaling and doubles every 18 months to use competition quantum computing. Modern AI has multi-chip multiplication with heavy parallelization for GPUs. Quantum parallel fast. That's a previous bet. 3 variations of evidence. One is public. They see favors to flop and models that are given out for free and then nothing can happen, which leaves them a false insecurity. Half their cards are before ChatGPT, meaning that they're irrelevant. AGI, for example, the SHA 19 evidence, no mention of ChatGPT, which is obviously a massive step. 2, journalists, they have public show timeliners and pay them as industry shows, even though they lack of technical knowledge, which is has new articles coming out. Bruce. 3, order uniqueness or evidence is violently uninformed and should be tossed out. The field moves too fast. That's Todd from in March. Back then, AGI rivals seem unlikely today. We can see how and who in 22 Lagoon chief AI scientist during Winter said GPT 5,000 never going to learn within a year. GPT 4. This is the only example of where accepting wrong footage. We see repeatedly seen AI going down from total confidence to greater than human performance. A couple of years to image any tools that they reveal to the creators. We don't want GPT wouldn't reason show common sense, exhibit understand limitations will overcome within a couple of years. It's been dangerous to say the bet against deep learning. That even Lagoon expects AGI several years on the digital minds. There's no real answer to this. So dropping back flips dry die because negative because we have an impact which they have no chance of outweighing. Simple office defense means that the S risk outweighs 0.1% risk of case, and the digital minds suffer equally as humans. They don't let them make the P risk outweighs because this I'll do on the counterpoint later. But AGI causes near infinite suffering. It runs simulations of humanity suffering repeatedly. The insanity of digital minds swiftly erase them repeatedly while causing mind crime as it causes suffering that making yourself risk your high. One failure causes an event that outweighs all previous suffering and thus Justin Polsky no new answers. No new answers because 2 and R. They say the wedding issue wrong. No, doesn't justify suicide. One, no living individual. That's always bad because they come will cause more suffering to everyone around. The only time death is good when it's all of humanity enough to stop AI. 2, large is conflating negative utility with society good is the society good is reduction is wrong and links back to that. Church 22. If blood weapons given away, it would be a moral imperative argument that can be big rights of usual creatures and narrative well-being. Same really good all would be improved. Imperative to minimize suffering is meant to promote well-being. Market well-being. Onto alignment. Misalignment is another one. Important period. There's a huge list of AI spiraling out. It's only increasing exponentially with quantity intelligence and integration. News program is faulty. Useless and database flaws. Miscommunication and training failures causes this line from reality and ethics. 3, security. All systems fail at some point. The only question is how much they fail. Well, there's no how much question if AGI fails once. We have no chance afterwards that makes it a total misalignment and take over and never. But that's Yapowski. All reject evidence not from authors formal training. They'll misunderstand technical details and misgouge the feasibility of superintelligence. Assess a high risk of impacts even if they win a award. You should defer the judgment of thousands of qualified scientists. Even if 2 high schools have slightly more persuasive explanation of AI technologies, reject their experts. They're swayed by cultural impositions, financial incentives, and cognitive biases that reject the scientific consensus. Yeah, that's Yapowski. 24. Focus on disability. that coming true about AI risk. They dismissed and confounding with AI safety, culture supporting skeptics. Most research on AI safety, research comes some domain experts, skeptic organization, professionally exposed to every question. Commentator to seem completely aware of literature, top research arguments and concerns. We cannot ignore confident interest. It's difficult for any person whose success depends on AI to accept the product is unsafe. Cognitive bias, underappreciated AI risk, optimism bias, confirmation risk, motivated reasoning, superintelligence pose a threat to all worth. This reject information about superintelligence. Illusions. Okay, I should move on to. Majority our evidence is from AI safety, which was not AI advancements. If anything, our authors have to attempt to go off and unique to make it look like they're doing a good job of connecting AI. The extension D, AI, JGI causes extinction. They drop this means that an extinction of this does not take offense because AI causes infinite suffering. Transhumanism is often not the way that the best thing to upload all of humanity, but that's only on the scale of billions. AI would cause subject near infinite amounts of copy beings, and which outweighs. Additionally, none of the pressure risk applies. The counterplan can't solve any of it because it just doesn't invest no solvency mechanism for why it actually succeeds. So I'm going to go to subsets real quick. Plan remediate only value only demanding factors only metrics that consistently has certain topicalities. If relative to questions, so you default alpha the block does give you a turn of the plan that determines function, then when the interpreter redefines the disavoted impact is arbitrary and the plan defines as infinitely regressive. Every team reads a different counter interpret. We have things like tags or highlighting the plan is only stable outcomes. We defend for things like conflict competition, the links also determines violation. You choose one AC instead of we might not choose the one AC, but what parts of it defined that only being guaranteed by his words. People put in the text two nars. No, it's two for simple is one he has to both win. CP competition proves by PT plaintiff's vacuum norm for the functions and way is normally checks the plaintiff has to be specific enough so the results in action. No, there's always advantages. On the sweet generous counterplan and unilateral counterplan. No, unilateral counterplan causes distinction, but permanent counterplan solves. Also, permanent counterplan and sweet generous wasn't properly answered. Solves.
735. practicality counterplan that bans AI and does a few other things.
Why not?
Sir, are you good? Okay.
Substance is a kill. The 1 year extends plan text in a vacuum when the plan text clearly violates our interpretation in means throughout. The absence restricted all copyright. That's words and phrases. The plan expands protection to, quote, detainees' copyright rights, which is a subset of all copyright, excludes copyright owned by non-detainees, which links to all our offense, predictably outweighs its locus preparation, and is key to fair debates because teams have an equal shot at proving and disproving the resolution with well thought out strategies. The 1 year was very unclear here, so error half, every 1 tag, and plan text of the app applies to detainee rights, which links to all our offense. If the 2 hour pivots to everyone can be a detainee, then they link to our FXC offense. That's bad because it erases and ground because topical action can mean effective anything. Drop, no new answer. They did not do any limit on whether they do actually not violate, and if they did do it, then it was totally unflowable. Bad. The 1 year dropped almost every card of the counterplan on how it solves every impact of humanity's discontents, fiats, and simulations to generate infinite pleasure for both humans and animals. It requires humanity to exist, though, because it's done by the federal government. That frames the rest of the debate. It might be messy, but we have an uncontested P risk. They have a mitigated S risk. So under utilitarianism, it's more likely the AI proliferates pleasure than pain. Any risk of alignment or AI good is neg. And the counterplan also proposed an international treaty to ban artificial intelligence, which demonstrates to adversaries and allies alike that the U.S. is removing the motive to develop artificial simulations in AI. They blustered for a second about no P risk, but did not get to a warrant. They said that the counterplan is not solved because it is not as much as extinction, which is irrelevant because it's irrelevant impact calculus because we have an infinite impact too. They also dropped that other countries acquiesce. The sole incentive to pursue AI research is military advantage, which counterplan evacuates by stopping the U.S. from pursuing the race. That's Carrianis. Even if other countries don't follow on, they concede that the existence of the treaty will convince AI to be benevolent. That's an independent in turn to misalignment and zeros for the recency first warrant, since AI might not be aligning now, but the counterplan shows AI the value of human development and shows them that humans do not want artificial intelligence, which makes them align themselves. That also answers the AI causes extinction argument, but that also takes out the turn if they go for this because it's not a sustainability warrant. It literally just makes humans not exist, which ends and terminates suffering. So any risk of the P risk outweighs. Now the wipeout debate proper. No AGI. We are reading cards that assume 2025. None of this is new, and we're citing none of this is a new argument. And we're citing industry consensus. They're citing bloggers and tech columnists. One surveys review of hundreds of AI researchers said there's a 76% chance of AGI happening, and 80% chance that their expectations and neg authors are all hype. That's 2. And 2 is math. The laws of computation necessitate limiting processing power for neural networks. Is especially true for AGI because it derives such large language models that Moore's law cannot keep up with, which answers that warrant. They just say surveys which is answered above. The 600 interpretation chart is not a qualified or peer-reviewed study. We've read evidence from a large amounts of AI safety researchers from the most recent cards that says that AI and AGI is unlikely to be achieved, and more importantly, though, is that the impact calculus is decisively negative. They said often Stevens Forrest in the 1 year there's a risk that alignment and there's a risk that AGI is not coming, but we have an uncontested pleasure risk that exists from us alive. Our cards do assume ChatGPT. Obviously, it's from 2025, so it's not older unimportant, which answers that card below. Did not drop digital suffering. In fact, the 2 and Z read 2 cards at the 1 year drop. There's no such thing as suffering online. Thinking requires shared experience, so does suffering. They also drop from a utilitarian perspective. There's no impact because it's not per se suffering, because it's not generate disutility, because it's all in a simulation anyway. So it's not so under the moral framing that they conceded, which is utilitarianism writ large, and it does not generate disutility. So there's no impact to this. And the negative neutral card they read is irrelevant. They conceded utilitarianism writ large, which is pleasure and pain. So there's no impact to this. Now alignment is certain. 1, economic incentives. It's more profitable for investors to develop AI because they'll be used for better actors. That's 1. And 2, highest probability. There's a 90% chance that AI will be aligned. That Shaw preferred. He has a PhD from Berkeley that specializes in AI safety. 3, their evidence is cherry picked. Researchers use tricks to manipulate research and they create worrying risks. They do it so that they make more attention for journalists and seek attention from the hype of fear mongering. That's my UR. That answers the economic incentives argument because it applies more to them, because the hype and self-perpetuating circle of AI research is equally, if not more, profit motivated. The 2 hour pivot to our cards don't assume ChatGPT. That's wrong. Language models have been in use since 2019, so our industry experts assume it. Humanity is good, even if you don't buy the counterpoint. Fiat's infinite pleasure. AI itself naturally has a propensity to develop infinite pleasure through simulations, immortality, and other positive things. They did not read a card here. They did not make any responses other than just general posturing that we did not access our PRS. We have one, and humans have developed it to create it. It creates infinite experience machines that humans have great lives in those simulations, which outweighs any risk of disutility. Now, the frame offense through filling completely dropped. Unionville lacks a compelling reason why other species cannot also develop AGI. New advanced mammals would recreate our capabilities through AI. Organisms like octopi and humanoids and hominids would use existing infrastructure from AI that's left in barren facilities to re-engineer it and creating infinite pain inevitably. That skill search Hammond and Cole said means it's try or die for alignment because harmful AI will be inevitable. Disease only affects humans, keeping the rest of nature alive. So it's a sustainability claim for wipeout.
Everything else.
Is in the counterclaim?
Yeah.
Cool.
Wait, just do case countertendency.
Is everyone good?
Yep.
First, there's no solvency for achieving the P-risk means it's wraps or night. They can say they invest in it all they want, but no solvency on what this P-risk looks like means you cannot weigh. It means it's try or die for stopping AGI because they've conceded the link. Their suffering cards are not in the context of digital minds. That means try or die outweighs that we control industry consensus. AGI is certain in coming 2026. Consensus outweighs specifics because we can't discuss every intricacy, but experts aggregate all warrants over years. That was the Afi-Saba evidence and misalignments inevitable. One is empirics. There's a huge list of AIs spiraling out, and it's only increasing exponentially with quantity, intelligence, and integration. Even if their evidence is from 2025, it doesn't account for the spiral, and our evidence accounts for it. Two is programming. It's faulty. A huge list of database flaws, of miscommunication, and training failures cause it to disalign from reality and ethics. Three is security. All systems fail at some point. The only question is how much they fail. But with AGI, there's no how much question. If AGI fails once, we all have no chance afterwards to fix it. That makes total misalignment and takeover inevitable. That was the Polsky evidence. Reject evidence from authors reject evidence not from authors with formal training. They'll misunderstand technical details and misgauge the feasibility of superintelligence, assess a high risk of our impacts, even if they win a war, and you should defer to the judgment of thousands of qualified scientists, even if two high schoolers have a slightly more persuasive explanation of AI technicalities. It's try or die for the app. Their counterplan cannot solve because regulations are bound to fail. That was the Dixon evidence. It says that labs are secretive and that industry leaders have deeply held ideological beliefs that means policymakers will always fail at regulations. Going on to AGI causes near infinite suffering. It runs simulations of humanity suffering repeatedly. It instantiates digital minds, which was dropped by the block to swiftly erase them to repeatedly while causing mind crime as it causes subroutines that dudes waiting to suffer. Risks are high. One failure causes an event that outweighs all previous suffering. It does extinction with Phillips. Try or die affirmative automatically. That was the Polsky. S risks outweigh their risk. Risk is magnitude times probability. Our scenario is near infinite. Digital minds experiencing near infinite suffering for an indefinite period of time. Any risk concerns two framing issues that warrant you overcorrecting F. One is the optimism bias. Studies prove humans are more likely to predict a positive future even when it's mathematically unlikely to be the case. Two is the deduction fallacy. Our scenario is naturally disregarded because each one individually might be low chance, but tons of deployments of AI make it stack up to be extremely unlikely. That was the Allhouse and Gluer evidence from the 1AC going on to should I just go to subset? Yeah. Right. Subsets. Extend that the impact's arbitrariness. Having the plan defined as their interp is infinitely regressive. Every team reads a different counter interp with things like tags, highlighting, etc. The plan is the only stable advocacy. We defend for things like counterplan competition and disset links. So it also determines the violation. Plan text in a vacuum. Like that's the reason for plan text in a vacuum. And they said like there's a violation because. They said like the plain text in a vacuum links harder to their violation because it like says like it says for a subset of detainees, but we say that's arbitrary. The plain text determines function. Then winning their inter redefines NT isn't a voter. It was answered in the 1AR. Going on to normal means checks. Normal means checks on plain text in a vacuum. The plain text has to be specific enough so that it results in actions that solves our advantages, i.e. if I affirm the whole resolution, it probably wouldn't result in a copyright. Even then, the most generic text also links to the most generic dissat, so it's fine. And there's no impact in this case. They say reasonability, but we shift towards that ground since your interp serves to guarantee links in competition. And it's also reciprocal since the 1AR has to win both. And counterplan competition proves plain text in a vacuum is the norm for that, and it functions fine. Going on to the treaties debate. They say treaties can stop AI, but none of their evidence is specific on how treaties can stop the spiral of AI. We say that illusions of alignment are astronomically more likely than actual alignment. That was the Arvin evidence. It says that these treaties have an illusion of alignment because that safety researchers are attempting the impossible. But the basic issue is that of scale. Because large language models are not controllable by governments, any evidence that researchers can collect will inevitably be based on a tiny subset, and that the treaties won't be solvent. That means only the AF can access its solvency, but the NEG cannot. Going on to. Should I do more misalignment? Again, misalignment is inevitable. You reject evidence not from authors with formal training. They'll misunderstand technical details. You assess a high risk of our impacts. Even if they win a war, you should defer to the judgment of thousands of qualified scientists. AGI causes near infinite suffering. It runs simulations of humanity suffering repeatedly.
Good debate.